Welcome to Lessons in Leadership. Steve Adubato with my co-anchor, executive producer, and all-around extraordinary leader, Mary Gamba. Mary, how are we doing today?
Doing really great. I always love to just sit here in anticipation with the title that I'm going to have for the day, so I'll take it.
Can you tell that I don't read the intro off a teleprompter and I just make it up?
No, so don't tell anybody the secret.
Yeah, I just did. The other secret is we have two leaders in the not-for-profit sector helping. Well, they actually serve people, consult for people, are trusted advisors for people in the not-for-profit sector. And they are, in fact, Scott Davis, who I've known for several years, a CPA, partner in charge, the not-for-profit services operation over at Prager Metis CPAs, and Larry Scott, who is an MBA CPA partner at Prager Metis CPAs. Prager Metis, one of our longtime partners. I've done a whole range of leadership and communication coaching there for several folks. Hey, thank you, gentlemen, for joining us. We appreciate it.
Oh, you're very welcome. Glad to be part of this.
Hey, Scott, put this in perspective. We run as you know, we run a separate not-for-profit media production company. And let's just say we're challenged like so many other not-for-profits in so many ways. What is especially challenging when it comes to the finances, the economics of not-for-profit leadership, and how does Prager Metis help those folks? Scott, go ahead.
No, I think of course, the main concern with most not-for-profits is, fundraising, having enough dollars to get to the program. And, one of the ways to help organizations like that is to get to know them. What are their pain points? What are their, opportunities? And have those discussions with, the C-suite of the nonprofit organization itself.
And Larry, let me ask you this. Why the not-for-profit niche, if you will, at Prager Metis for you? Did you pick it? Did it pick you? How did that happen?
Well, I was in my own firm years ago. I joined Prager Metis a year ago. But about 20 years ago, I decided at that time that I was going to segue totally into the not-for-profit area for a couple of reasons. One, I just liked the industry. I liked working for organizations whose goal is not to make a profit. And I want to state something for everybody listening. The not-for-profit should make a profit. They're just not in business to make a profit. Key difference. And so the owners are not all driven, what's my tax effects, what the bank's going to do. The goal is to do something, some service. And so I found servicing these people and organizations is much more rewarding than individuals, corporations. And although you do make a little less money, but all around it's more enjoyable.
Well said. Scott, let me come back to you. Our not-for-profit, the Caucus Educational Corporation, which has been in collaboration with public media for many years. Our partners in public media are challenged on so many levels. We do not, as a not-for-profit, seek any government grant. All of our funding is private foundations, corporations, philanthropic individuals, et cetera. But here's one of the things I've learned about not-for-profit financing, and you can help us, Scott. We are not that good at, I appreciate how Larry said this, we're not there to make a profit, but you need to make a profit. And here's the bottom line. Sometimes I wonder if we're entrepreneurial enough as not-for-profit leaders, as opposed to saying, well, we're doing really good things. Why aren't people financing it? Mary, jump in after this, but go ahead, Scott.
No, I think that's a very valid point. I think it's a challenge for a lot of nonprofit organizations that, the intentions are good when someone starts a nonprofit. They have a goal, they have a mission, and the bottom line is not that, as Larry mentioned. That's not technically what they wanted. They want to help as many people as possible. But there is a point where you have to take that step back and look at the financing and the dollars, and does it make sense, and how can you keep it going? And sometimes even build a cushion to keep it going even longer.
What do you mean, cushion?
Perhaps, an endowment or a board designated endowment of some sort, definitely, invest. I mean, you don't have to spend every dollar for the mission. Get some of it aside. So when that rainy day comes, it's there to help the organization.
Mary, is this resonating at all?
Every single bit of it. I'm just leaning in and listening to just from the nonprofit perspective and leading our nonprofit. There are so many challenges, but there's also opportunities. And Larry, this one's for you. Having been in this industry for so many decades, and Steve and I were just talking about this earlier, for more than 2-3 decades of being a part of innovation and change, talk about what impact this innovation of artificial intelligence has had, particularly on the accounting industry, and how you're approaching how you are servicing the nonprofits in your orbit, Larry.
I'm going to say that's a work in progress. The AI is relatively new. I mean, it's moved very, very fast. I've been in the computer area too for years, and things just hit like a tidal wave. So I think it's new. I don't think anybody really knows yet. The accounting side of it, AI might perform a lot of very basic bookkeeping. It might help in the auditing, but I don't think it's filtered down yet, other than maybe some software to help your work papers. But I want to mention something on dovetail on what Scott said and what you seem to be interested in, which is the finance.
Yeah.
Very, very, I'm going to say not very little, but a lot less attention is given to doing the financing, the bookkeeping, the accounting of not-for-profits. After doing this for 35 years, I got to tell you that very little money is put aside to hire a professional or accounting department that handles it. But without that, it's very hard to manage the financing, but it's not going to your program. So people don't donate for accounting or bookkeeping, and therefore there's no money, and they don't put it until there's a problem at the not-for-profit. And like Scott said, there is no cushion. You can't get any financing. The donations are not coming in. The events are not being held. Then you can't figure out, and everybody scrambles around. Some money has to be put aside for the accounting in order for you know what to do with your, budget and going forward.
Scott, as I'm listening to Larry, I'm thinking about this. Think back several years ago in March of 2020 when COVID hit. To what degree do you believe, Scott, from your perspective, COVID and the reality of COVID dramatically impacted the not-for-profit sector, particularly when it comes to financing?
I think it had a significant impact. I think at that time when, there was fear in people, there was fear in the country, and, unknowns as to what was going to happen, you tend to contract. So giving can fall. So your donations, contributions are down. And I think that gave a lot of entities time to really look at that, because if you can't do your programs, which might be out in the public, if it's outward facing, you couldn't meet with people. Hopefully they took that time to look and see. And I think hopefully they realized they needed that cushion, or the things that's happening again recently with, the grant issues with some large nonprofits. Same thing. The grant dries up, the funding stops, and you realize there's nothing backing up the organization in it for a long-term solution. So it's definitely a challenge for nonprofit organizations.
And Mary, I know you remember back to almost to the day, as soon as the reality of COVID, what COVID we thought what it was going to be, one of the first things we did, and it wasn't easy and it didn't make everyone happy, and we understand, but as the leaders of a not-for-profit, Mary and I picked a number and we said we need to reduce our expenses by a certain amount, Mary.
Yeah.
Which meant, I love when people say right-sizing the workforce, which is another way of saying we let certain people go. And these were good people. But if we hadn't done that, then I would be an irresponsible leader. And further, in the environment we're in right now, we're cutting back and being more efficient. And people are like, why can't we just, it's a long-winded way of getting to this. And I want you to respond, Larry. I've worked with not-for-profit leaders who say, we're just going to keep going with the status quo. And my response is, you can't. My thinking is, the status quo is actually moving backwards when it comes to financing the economics of a not-for-profits. Is not the status quo dangerous, Larry?
Absolutely. Status quo is dangerous with anything. And I always think of like a not-for-profit, like a small business, even if they're a big not-for-profit. They really have to operate very leanly all the time. And they can't just say, oh, well, this is what happened last year, we'll do it next year. So here's the problem, though. I'm going to twist what you said a little bit,
sure.
Steve. A lot of times, the first thing a executive director or president does when they're in trouble is start laying off people and start cutting costs. And I think that's is important and needs to be done. But when you're running into trouble, just cutting expenses This is a very important point. Just cutting expenses is not the best way necessarily to go. Because what happens, and I've been involved with a lot of organizations that have done this, they have a leader, they brought in somebody, doesn't really know how to lead. And what they do is, okay, we don't have money, cut. And I say to them, you keep cutting everything, you're cutting yourself right out of business because you don't have the resources to perform your programs and your events. So you got to do it smartly, not just cut expenses.
Surgically?
I said.
No, I appreciate what you said. Listen, that doesn't mean everyone. Colin Powell once said to me in an interview 20 years ago, Steve, sometimes leaders piss people off. And I said, well, what does that have to do with leadership? And he said, you have to make tough decisions and not everyone's going to like them. When you're making, to me, surgical, empathetic, strategic, that doesn't mean everyone likes it, but you're not going, hey, let's get rid of that department. No, scalpel, not a hammer. Anyway, I'm off my soapbox. To Scott and Larry, and also to Glenn and Lori and the leadership team at Prager Metis. You've been nothing but great partners. I look forward to continuing my leadership coaching at Prager Metis and the partnership we've had. Gentlemen, thanks so much. We appreciate it.
Thank you, Steve, and thank everybody in your whole team.
Yeah, Mary's the leader. We know that. Stay with us. We'll be right back. This edition of Lessons in Leadership is made possible by the Buccino Leadership Institute at Seton Hall University, Prager Metis, Valley Bank, the International Union of Operating Engineers, Local 825, the North Ward Center, Jingoli Construction, the New Jersey Sharing Network, Horizon Blue Cross Blue Shield of New Jersey, the Helix, Fedway Associates Inc., the Port Authority of New York and New Jersey, Choose New Jersey, and Seton Hall University, showing the world what great minds can do since 1856.
This is Mary Gamba. If you want more leadership tips and tools, log on to stand-deliver.com. That's stand-deliver.com.
Promotional support for this edition of Lessons in Leadership with me, Steve Adubato, and my colleague Mary Gamba has been provided by NJ.com, NJBIA and New Jersey Business Magazine, CIANJ and Commerce Magazine, and the Meadowlands Chamber and Meadowlands Media.